Andy, the floor is all yours.
Excellent. Thanks, Rob. We are here today to talk about the challenges and opportunities for today's manufacturing finance operations. We're very excited to describe how OneStream's intelligent finance platform empowers predictive manufacturing finance. We'll be describing for you why we're confident OneStream is a CPM vendor you're going to want to partner with. And we'll also describe why OneStream is the best solution to meet the needs of manufacturing finance today. So hi, my name is Andy Smetana. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for Nova Advisory. Nova Advisory is a 100% OneStream partner. I'll be hosting today's session. I've got 25 years of consulting experience. I've helped dozens of companies, including manufacturing companies all over the world, transform their business by partnering with OneStream. I'm also very excited to have several guest speakers with me today. I'll start with Greg, if you'd introduce yourself. Greg Hertling is a partner at Nova Advisory.
Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Hertling, a partner at Nova Advisory. I've got about 20 years of industry experience from cost accounting all the way to director of FP&A. And I've been doing OneStream for about 4 or 5 years now.
Excellent. Thanks, Greg. We've got Dave Collins joining us today. Dave's a director of solution consulting for OneStream Software. Dave, would you introduce yourself? Dave might be on mute. We'll move it over to Chad Pisha. Chad Pisha comes from IPS Corporations, the chief accounting officer there. Chad, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Andy. So yeah, my name is Chad Pisha. I have 20 some years in the industry, from accounting to finance to divisional CFO roles. So I've been on a lot of different sides of the accounting world and been utilizing OneStream for the last 5 years. So thanks.
Excellent. Dave, rejoin us by chance? Okay, he must be having issues. So welcome, everyone. So collectively, this team brings 75 plus years of CPM experience. Nova Advisory is solely focused on OneStream, as I mentioned a moment ago. We believe and know that it is the CPM solution of choice. We've helped many customers, just like yourself, manufacturing, finance, operations, and organizations all over the world. And we'll be sharing examples throughout this presentation of how you can benefit from OneStream solutions. So who are some of the customers that have partnered with OneStream and Nova Advisory? Who has Nova Advisory implemented OneStream for? So as you can see from the slide, we've got manufacturing companies, really who's who globally, companies that have decided to partner with OneStream and Nova Advisory. They operate businesses all over the world, Americas, EMEA, Asia Pacific, and they range anywhere up to $10 billion plus in annual revenue. These include privately held companies, PE-backed companies, and publicly held companies with statutory reporting requirements, all handled through OneStream. Nova Advisory provides advisory services. We guide our clients through their OneStream journey. We start where it makes sense for each client to start. We'll explain more about what that means as we talk about the OneStream platform here in this presentation. Nova Advisory delivers 100% customer and client success. We stick around, we support our clients as their business evolves, and we expand their solutions on the OneStream platform. So I'm going to turn it over to Greg to talk a bit about some of the challenges we see our clients and hear our clients describe for us in the changing landscape of manufacturing finance. So Greg, over to you.
All right, thanks, Andy. So Nova Advisory is seeing a few themes that keep repeating from our manufacturing clients: supply chain disruptions, labor costs, pricing pressures. So from a supply chain perspective, a few issues. Raw material sourcing has come up quite a bit. Rising shipping costs. This could possibly be related to recently announced new regulations on the trucking industry. Changes in supply chain due to companies' ESG goals, of course, FX rate fluctuations, and we're seeing some shifts to build products onshore or reshoring. Is an action some companies are taking to simplify their supply chains and reduce risk. Of course, there's also some one-time disruptions, like we're seeing with the Key Bridge collapse in Baltimore, that again is impacting some supply chains. So clients are really looking for solutions to analyze and plan for these issues through maybe their S&OP processes, budgets, strategic plans. They're also looking for more data more frequently to help them identify issues earlier on in the process and to be able to put short-term plans in place without having to wait for monthly reporting. These are all tools that OneStream has to support finance organizations, and I believe we'll be looking at some S&OP planning a little later in the presentation. Labor costs are another issue that's come up a lot lately. Labor shortages, rising labor cost, also challenges we're seeing come up frequently. OneStream does have a people planning module that provides a solution to analyze and plan for these. With this tool, finance organizations can really plan both salary and wage related expenses within OneStream. They can use this tool to ensure they're matching labor to their capacity plans and run what if scenarios to understand, a wide range of possible outcomes. Pricing and product profitability is a third theme we're seeing quite a bit with clients. Challenges, possibly around China's excess manufacturing capacity, putting pressure on sales prices and squeezing margins. We're just getting visibility on profitability of the same products, maybe sold in different regions, produced at different manufacturing locations, all to support some strategic decision making. Could also be modeling new product introductions and how they're going to impact the overall plan. Again, later in the presentation, we'll show some examples of how OneStream can help with these challenges as well. But it's really not just about producing more data. It's also being able to distill the information down to decision points for executives. The questions we should be asking are, should we take action? Or does this align with our strategic objectives? OneStream's vast visualization tools can really help answer these questions. That's where the power of the platform really shines, being able to go from a very deep analysis to a decision point all within the same tool. At Nova Advisory, we've helped clients solve a wide range of challenges while partnering with them to complete their digital finance transformation.
And then, Greg, I would add too, just from using this tool, it's the data that we need, but it's more the timeliness of the data too, right? Doing this manually and trying to do this often and consistent, it's very hard. So with this tool, what I've seen anyway, is that, you get better information faster and sooner and more accurate and on a consistent basis. So I think that's key to a lot of these solutions here.
Yeah, I totally agree, Chad. And with things, changing so much faster these days, having that information, like you said, quicker, earlier on in the process is extremely important and valuable to organizations. Andy, I think I'll kick it back over to you to talk about the platform.
Great, thanks, Greg. The manufacturing finance is at an inflection point. So let me ask, if you could provide insights into your financial and operational performance before you close the books, whether that's monthly, quarterly, or annually, would you want to and why? Now, that's a bit of a rhetorical question we ask our clients as we plan out their OneStream journey. And we hear answers like, yes, of course, this would help us become more strategic, proactive, and better business partners as a finance organization. Finance teams are responsible for creating the book of record. They close and consolidate, usually on a monthly basis. That's looking backwards, what has happened. The OneStream platform does this, and it's best in class for this capability. Now, finance teams are also responsible for looking forward. So what's coming next? What are the business opportunities? How do we address some of those challenges that Greg just walked through? They provide the plans and budgets to get there. That's table stakes for a CPM solution. And OneStream's best in breed for planning capability as well. OneStream is a single unified platform. Users don't need to log into multiple applications to get their planning work done. So some examples of forward-looking solutions available to download on the OneStream platform are the people planning solution that Greg mentioned. There's also capital planning solutions and sensible machine learning solutions, all available for download, configuration, and deployment rapidly within the OneStream platform. So the question I'll ask is, who's helping you in your world for today? OneStream can do this as well, and they call this operational analytics. Operational analytics gives finance teams the information to proactively drive their performance with daily and weekly financial signals. So some examples for manufacturing finance professionals may include controlling costs or analyzing working capital metrics. Those allow for midstream actions before a month end is complete. Now, Gartner says that only 13% of businesses have this type of information available to them. OneStream's operational analytics capability provides the ability for manufacturing finance teams to make decisions based upon these financial and operational data. So let me provide an example of a GPS. OneStream wants to be your GPS for manufacturing finance. So I personally use Waze as my GPS when I'm getting around town. Waze has got a GPS capability. It tells me where I'm at in my commute. It'll tell me if there's going to be heavy traffic on my normal route. It'll tell me whether I'm going to make my appointments on time. It'll actually reroute me in the moment if it sees that there's something impeding my journey or where I want to go. And that is what operational analytics can do for finance teams of OneStream's customers. So let's shift gears now to how manufacturing finance executives can use OneStream operational analytics in their business. So I'm going to invite Chad and Greg into the conversation. We're going to have a Q&A and kind of talk about some of the insights of how they've implemented OneStream for manufacturing finance, both on the customer side and on the consulting side of the projects. So Chad, I'll kick the first question over to you. So why is customer and product profitability analysis an important area for your business?
Yeah, that's a great question, Andy. I mean, there's a lot to that question, but I mean, it just as simple as it could be. I mean, you want to understand your profitability for sure from a customer product, but from a customer perspective, right? I mean, you want to maintain that edge. You want to understand what your customers are looking at, what they're doing, what they're spending their money on. So from an analysis like this, you can kind of see their trends and patterns in their buying and understand, where we're profitable at. I mean, we want to maintain our market share, right? We don't want to give it up, especially in a commodity-driven market, right? So, they're going to look for that best possible price, and you really want to understand how your price points are and what it's cost to actually make that product where you want to keep your margins. I mean, I think, there's a lot to that question, Andy. I mean, there's a lot of, just to understand how you want to allocate your resources, right? So through profitability and from a product and customer, you can understand, okay, well, what are my most profitable products? Who are my most profitable customers? You really want to attend to those and understand and make sure that continues that way. From a cost control, right? You really understand, like, okay, well, we could look at geographic from plant by plant to really understand our costs and what's driving those products and what cost inputs on there. So we can really drive that to ensure our margins maintain or be able to pass that to the customer. From just a customer retention perspective, as I mentioned before, you really want to make sure that you're priced right, you're priced competitively. But at the same time, we're all in this for the business piece of it and making money. We'll make sure we're making money as well. But just overall, to me, it's just from looking at it from a business perspective on this side of things, it's really, I want to make sure our customers are happy. We're happy. We want to make sure we understand where we're making money, where we're not. How do we do we move unprofitable products out? Does this help us actually produce different types of products based on our customer spending and listening to them and understanding how profitable you are? So there's a lot of things to this, and it's really important to have that information. I think the key to this is actually having that information and be able to action on it.
So, Chad, one of the things I've seen as well is just really getting visibility, and you've got maybe multiple manufacturing locations, in some cases, making the same product, getting visibility to the profitability of each of those manufacturing locations is key. And, part of that is understanding, how costs are being allocated. A lot of cases you're using different ERP systems across those different manufacturing locations. So being able to look at a product on an apples to apples basis in order to make a true product profitability decision is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's very key. I mean, if you have multiple plants around the world or multiple plants in one region with different ERPs, it's really hard to understand really what the profitability is and what's actually driving that profitability or lack thereof.
So, Chad, you mentioned some of the challenges you dealt with and really understanding and diving into which customers are most profitable, which products are they purchasing. Maybe you could relate some of the challenges you've seen in your business and how you've used OneStream to address those areas.
Yep, no, that's a great question too. I think Greg stole a little bit of it, but from just a visibility standpoint, which was key for us, right? So, before we had put the solution of OneStream in, we tried to do this manually. So there's a lot of things that happen when you do this manually. Like just from a time and resource perspective, this took a lot of time and effort, and it's never in time, right? So you kind of get to a point where you can get to, and you just got to cut that analysis off, and that's the best information you have. And most of the time it's too late, and then within the analysis that we did see, it was always subjective, right? So there was a lot of different thoughts and different ways of doing this. So we needed a consistent way. To Greg was mentioning, if we have different plants around the world with different cost structures, different ways of looking at inventory, different ways of building it up, different ways of gross profit in each location, we want to make sure that we're looking apples to apples and we didn't have all that subjectivity in there. And then when it comes down to cost allocation too, right? We have different people doing this around the world, how to allocate, costs across, especially if we want to get down the EBITDA or even OpEx operating margin for some of your from some of your products. It was a little bit more difficult to understand how each individual person was doing that. So we wanted to make sure that was consistent. So we're looking apples to apples. And, the other thing too was just the accuracy of data and the availability of it too. We had a hard time sometimes getting that information out of the system on a repeatable basis, right? So if we needed ad hoc analysis, or we needed something out of a plant or a location, sometimes that information wasn't available or wasn't the same as previously, because that individual picked, took information, just took it out of the system differently than they did before, right? So there was a lot of challenges that led us to using OneStream, because it was just the lack of consistency, the lack of, just resources internally, honestly, took a lot of time. And just the way we allocated costs was inconsistent. So that really led us to looking for a solution that we could bring all that together to have that more repeatable and consistent in the future.
Maybe Greg or Chad, just any further examples of that customer product profitability analysis you've seen done within OneStream for any of your experience? Chad, you've got multiple experiences implementing OneStream, or Greg, your customers.
Yeah, I could start with this too. I mean, I think from an example perspective, right? Starting out just simple, like we wanted just to understand our profitability by products, but then it really came down to looking at different locations. So we would look at them geography, from a regional standpoint or location standpoint, or even plant over plant. to understand just from the profitability of just making a product, what it costs us to make that, and why different areas of the world or different areas of the US were different. We had different profitability in the same products, right? So it enabled us to get into the cost structure and understand where to pinpoint some of our efforts to understand, why is one plant more efficient than the other, right? That really helped us, from a channel perspective, right, too. So we have different outlets of our business, right? We have e-commerce, we have retail, we have direct sales, we have wholesale. So that helped us understand where are we profitable at, what products are profitable, where and why are some more profitable than others. But that would enable us to pivot sometimes on where we want to sell, since we only have so much capacity. We can look at seasonal and trend analysis too. So we did a lot of that, looking at that as well from a perspective in the business that we're in today. There's seasonal with especially within the construction industry, right? There's a lot of seasonal and trends that how our customers behave and how they buy. So that really helped us understand, even getting down into planning from a perspective of how much material should we buy, when should we buy them, right? So it really drove us down into many different areas of the business to really help understand and help predict some of our buying patterns, as well as what products should we or should we not be in at this point.
Okay. And OneStream offers a solution exchange, and those what that is a number of solutions are available to download and configure and quickly deploy within the OneStream platform. So I'm kind of curious, there's two solutions, the people planning and capital planning, that I really want to focus on. There's probably 50 plus solutions out of the solution exchange now. But maybe you could talk about how we could use a people planning or a capital planning solution to analyze by those different metrics you mentioned, Chad, by location, by market, by plant, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. We could start with capital planning, right? I mean, everybody wants everything, and everybody's ROI is, looks great on paper. But when you have multiple areas, when you're a global business, you really need to. You get a lot of inundated, especially in the planning and forecasting cycle and the budgeting cycle. You get inundated by a lot of requests, and what really helped here, this was the start of it, right? It's really just, using this type of tool really helped us prioritize and evaluate, potential investments, and how do we allocate these now, right? So we got all this, so we can really look at this from a global perspective, to understand how these things are bucketed. Are they compliance issues? Are they growth initiatives or strategic initiatives? So it helped us understand, and from a capital planning perspective, put all this information together and analyze and really allocate the funds that we had to allocate for capital expenditures for that year, right? And then as time went on, this tool is great to really monitor actual versus plan. I mean, I know a lot of times you issue capital and then it kind of goes to the wayside. You're not really paying any attention to exactly what the spend is. This tool allows us to monitor that. And I think the most important thing is, at the end of this too, is really to monitor the performance of really what they said their ROI was going to be on that planned project, to see if they really hit what they said they would hit. So, I think it always starts out simple, just to understand of how to allocate, but then as you grow into it, you understand, you have a lot more information. You go down those next steps and and help the business and really help understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, and really have that end all, that did they really hit that ROI of what they said to do.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chad. Appreciate
Yep.
your insights. So as our next step, let's turn it over to Dave Collins. Dave's here from OneStream Software, and he'll be able to provide us some examples of OneStream put in use for a manufacturing finance team. So I'm going to turn over the actual presentation slides to you now, Dave.
Thank you, Andy. Hi, everyone. This is Dave Collins. At the beginning of the session, for whatever reason, my sound was not working. So I believe I was supposed to be introducing myself at some point. You probably saw a picture of me with a title. My name is Dave Collins. I'm a director of solutions for OneStream. I work with our partner community, great partners like Nova and others around the world, to facilitate sessions like this and to educate the partners and you all on the value of OneStream from a leadership perspective. We are a leader from a Gartner standpoint in 2 areas of performance management or corporate performance management. Gartner looks at things fairly simply. We look at it on a more extended or expanded level. Their focus really is on the 2 facets of financial planning and financial close and consolidation. I'll give you a bit of an overview of both of those when I go in. And these align to 2 of the things that Andy talked about early on before he mentioned operational analytics. Now, our customers, by the way, we have more than now, I think, 1,430 customers worldwide. When I joined 4 years ago, we had around 550 customers. So we've experienced a tremendous amount of growth. We thank our customers and our partners for that growth. And our customers tend to replace multiple functional components within performance management, like close consolidation, account reconciliations, transaction matching if you're on that side of the Office of Finance, or many different FP&A activities, be it financial or operational on the FP&A side. They also tend to replace multiple vendors' products. So there's a lot of vendors that we compare to in the market. You've got the Oracles and the IBMs and the SAPs and the Anaplans and many others that are out there. And we not only compare very favorably from an analyst point of view, but we win our fair share in the compare contrast or the bake-off, if you will, as customers are evaluating what to do next. Now, a little bit of backdrop. The reason why OneStream is we saw an opportunity to improve upon performance management. And so did the Accentures, the PwCs, and others of the world when looking at progress made or lack thereof in the Office of Finance over the years. There was a study done, or a series of studies done, that I'm showing on screen right now, talking about the time it takes to gather data. That used to be the old 80-20 rule. Now it's just apparently the 66-34 rule. I'll talk about OneStream improvements on that in just a moment. At the top, 20% of organizations are able to leverage macroeconomic or external data in forecasts. I'll talk about that in detail as well. And then 86% of analytics efforts are missing the mark. I'll talk a bit about data science and the application of data science or machine learning to make things more automated, faster, more accurate here in just a few minutes. OneStream felt, when we created OneStream, if you will, some 13 years ago, we felt that there was a curve, a maturity curve that was left untapped. At the far left-hand side, financial performance management, that's the typical, where we're not getting into operational levels of detail. We tend to be looking at periodic data, starting at month, going to quarter, going to year, not getting into week, not getting into day. With OneStream customers, we're seeing much more operational capability. We're also seeing a lot of AI-driven forecasting capability, which is creating a lot of automation and a lot of speed and accuracy in many different facets. Really good customer story. BDO are using us for the typical performance management around close consolidation, reporting, analytics, management reporting, operational reporting. But on the right there for benefits, they were a very early adopter of our analytics services capability within the platform, and they're loading in millions of records on an evening by evening basis so that they can see how the projects are going by customer. That is atypical for performance management, and yet for BDO, it is performance management. How well are we performing for our customers is a huge consideration. They want to get out ahead of those things. In typical performance management, you would find out at the end of the month, and then at the end of the quarter and the end of the year. But at the end of the month would be typically where you'd see it first, or you'd go and get an analytics solution and pair that with your performance management solution. Additionally, performance management tends to be very siloed or fragmented. You're going to have multiple modules to do things like lease accounting, account reconciliation, tax provisioning, and all of the FP&A activities that you see there on screen as well. The challenge with that is that you have to integrate. And the challenge with having to do that integration is that you experience a lot of what is now referred to as technical debt. I simply call it work. work takes time, it takes effort, and it takes money to achieve. And when I was in consulting, delivering performance management solutions, I spent a lot of time doing data integration across all of these modules to make everything come together. OneStream brings it all together with one user license or user by user. That license enables a customer, that consumer, to do literally everything that is defined as performance management to them. So at BDO, it's one license to do close consolidation, FP&A activities, and the ability to do analytics down to that level depth that they're doing. Our new view of this is that we're providing a digital finance cloud that is bringing together finance and operations. So the lines are blurred, and we're powering that with a series of platform services, inclusive AI services. And customers like Lego, who focused initially on operations, have modernized their FP&A process, integrating all planning across all of their profit centers down to a very deep level of detail, and brought in capital planning, salary planning, and ESG planning, and reporting, of course, as well. But ESG planning is a huge area for a lot of our customers, especially those in Europe. They're now starting to leverage sensible machine learning or sensible ML to do much more of a predictive plan as opposed to a heavily biased-based plan. Our customers, generally speaking, have improved on that 80-20, now 66-34 rule. Data management improvement is 72% plus, reporting improvement 75% plus, close consolidation improvement 54% plus. And from a planning standpoint, one customer talked about simplifying the workflow, consolidating all of their plan process together and cutting 60 days on the budget process, removing 24% of the time spent on the budget so that they could perhaps go through more iterations of the budget process more quickly. When it comes to forecast, we're seeing customers move from weeks to hours so that they can go about the task of analyzing what they're finding as opposed to just ticking the box and saying, okay, I've done it. Now, one of the ways we're able to unify several different facets of performance management together is referred to as extensibility or extensible dimensionality. I'm going to show an example of this by way of the PowerPoint slides to try to bring this home. Corporate is going to have its view of what's going on. And if you look at it from an actuals perspective and look at it on a revenue standpoint, I might have a consolidation of product and services and other and adjustments to revenue. Whereas an equipment group that's doing manufacturing, they have that, but from a budget standpoint, they may need to go deeper so that they can have a much better grain of detail for product revenue, in this case, looking at wholesale, e-commerce, direct, component, and intercompany. And when it comes to the motors group that has a lot of intercompany activity as well to equipment, for example, they too look at revenue in the same way as corporate and equipment, but they look at product revenue differently than the other two. And the challenge in most performance management solutions is that you'd build a module or an application for corporate and one for equipment and one for motors. And now I'm in that spaghetti slide that I showed a few slides ago, where I have to do integration between each of these different applications or modules. And with OneStream, it's all together in one application. Now, without getting into all the details of that in the time we have, it's there, it's leveraged by our customers, and it is, from my standpoint, the key differentiation versus us and the other vendors that we compare to. They're all very good at what they do. They've all been very good at what they do. We've progressed beyond one of the impediments seen with most of the vendors out there, and that is we've moved away from module and we've moved to a unified approach to performance management. We've also provided solutions in Solution Exchange. Andy mentioned this earlier. We used to call it Marketplace. Now Marketplace lies within Solution Exchange, and the Marketplace is where we put solutions that are built using the OneStream platform, or as we sometimes refer to, software using software. So we've built various planning solutions, and other solutions as well. We have more than 70 solutions in Marketplace and OpenPlace. Think OpenPlace is like open source, if you will. And our partners are starting to create solutions as well, and they're putting them into an area of solution exchange called PartnerPlace. Now, as I bring this into more of a manufacturing light, where integrated business planning becomes key and critical, and I'll talk about a use case here in a minute, what we see with our customers is a highly fragmented, disconnected way of doing portfolio and commercial and demand plan and supply chain planning. One of our GSI partners calls this the big cog, if you will, on the operational side versus the little cog on the financial side. The financial side is incredibly important. We need to be able to tie all of these together so that we can pay for it, so that we have line of sight for what might come down the road, like I have to, per demand, get more supplies so that my manufacturing process can actually go about manufacturing. From a benefit standpoint, it allows for alignment. So remove the disconnected nature of planning today and actually truly integrate it. Bring together financial and operational planning. Financialize, I'm not sure if that's a word or not, but marketing believes it is, the operational plans. Create a more collaborative approach to this and eliminate replication, because we have all of this sitting in one application. Providing a unique approach by way of our platform is really the key critical component here. So what does this look like from a customer standpoint? Well, Autoleave, a safety supplier in Europe, is doing all of this by way of the platform today. They started, much like BDO did, in other forms of the more summary performance management, but they're doing S&OP, they're doing financial close consolidation, reporting and analysis. Their case study is actually on OneStream.com if you look under resources. In particular, from my standpoint, they're solving for a very simple problem. They are beholden to the forecast coming from their customer, and their customer would be the Fords, the Stellantises, the GMs, the Volvos of the world. In other words, the manufacturing companies that make those automotive, those vehicles, if you will. They get a forecast from someone, say a Ford as an example, and Ford believes they're going to sell 100,000 units over the course of the next several months. Autoleave responds by creating 100,000 units of safety systems and then ship it to them. Well, what if they're wrong? What if Ford really wound up needing to build 125,000? Now I've missed an opportunity. I have to increase overtime so that I can build more and build them very quickly. I have to increase freight expense. Those are expenses I didn't plan for, and that's because the forecast coming from my customer was not as accurate as it could have been. And what if the opposite happens, where instead of 100,000 units, it's 80,000 units? Now suddenly I have a lot of supply sitting around that I can't leverage. At the end of the day, traditional forecasting, which is highly biased, highly opinion-filled, is not very accurate. That intuitive approach is typically not right. It depends upon the person. What we're doing now in the platform is leveraging a solution out of Solution Exchange called Sensible Machine Learning, which I referred to a little bit before, that is allowing me now to work out what the actual drivers are. Essentially, what I'm doing is taking in data at various levels of detail, typically for something like this, all the way down to the day level, and I'm leveraging math to work out what that pattern happens to be. Now, it doesn't mean that you need to know math, and I'm showing some of the statistical algorithms on screen right now. And by the way, I was a stats major. I wasn't a business major or a finance major. I have a lot of them in my family. They claim that I'm much more boring than they are. I believe the opposite is actually true. Math and data is actually incredibly worthwhile. It allows me to see patterns, and if I can bring in data from the outside world, I can dimensionalize what happened and provide context so that I can predict it going forward. So as an example, looking at the day of the week, do we tend to sell more on a certain day of the week. If you look at weekends in the retail industry, that's certainly true. If you look at Black Friday, that's certainly true. But we're not talking about the events that we all know. What about events that are particular to a region, to an organization? What if I had the ability to put those events into the system and look at that contextually against my data to see if there's a pattern, and then take that pattern and project it forward so that I could see what might happen going forward? What if I was able to look at the weather? What if I was able to bring all of that together, look at sales versus prior year versus week of the year, look at precipitation, look at interest rates, look at unemployment? What if I had the ability to take all of that macroeconomic data, which I mentioned earlier, our customers didn't previously have the ability to leverage? What if I could leverage that together? Well, I'd be more accurate, I'd be more efficient, I'd be more transparent, I'd be more agile, and I'd be unifying all of this together, the functional, the technical, the operational, the financial together. And per Gartner, 54% of the time, pure play data science makes it to production, meaning that a good amount of the time it doesn't. And it takes a long time to actually put that in place. Whereas 100% of the time, our customers and our prospective customers that are doing a proof of value on sensible machine learning are eventually making it into production, because it's plugging in with a no-code, low-code approach, OneStream, leveraging that data and allowing us to create a much more accurate, much more agile forecast. So let's have a look at OneStream. I'm going to go into OneStream. Here is one imagination or vision of what OneStream's front end could look like. I say that because this is something built by our demo engineering team, whereas if I click on new, Nova can help you paint the picture that's appropriate for you. In our case, we have across the top a series of navigation capabilities. For example, I click on reporting, and much like Microsoft Office, in that ribbon-based approach, I can go to my financial, my operational, my ESG, my narrative reporting, my pillar 2-based reporting. I can also go into planning, consolidation, financial close, and I'll do that in just a moment. But you'll see across the bottom of the screen that I have the ability to go in and do some reporting against these KPIs. And as a user, I can actually decide or configure what my KPIs are going to look like, what the comparison might look like. And further, I can select any of these and find out more contextually what happened prior to the given month. And by the way, we're assuming that we just closed June of 2023, a bit of a history lesson. I can drill down on this data to find out more about what's going on. Like, return on assets is what to me? Well, it's actually defined as my net income divided by total assets. There's the calculation right there. If I look at that net income, I can see what each of those line items means by drilling down through them until I get down into my gross income, my revenues, my product revenue, and that means wholesale, e-commerce, and more, like I showed you a bit ago. And I can take this even further, should I choose to do so, to go look at all of the data that was loaded in from the source system. Now, we're actually loading in all of that transaction level of detail from the source system because it's useful. When I go into my operational dashboards, I can look at that data on a summary basis or specific to customer and product by just clicking. If I, for example, maximize my customer order details, I have every order for 2023, thousands and thousands and thousands of orders at the ready, available to me so that I can see what's going on and what happened and what drove perhaps a particular behavior or a particular outcome. In my customer scatter, if I wanted to drill down on my central region and see the detail and look for those outliers, as I'm seeing here, I can then go and have a look at perhaps why I have these outliers. For example, if I choose Illinois, I can see that I've got some discount percentages that are much higher than my benchmark of 18%. And I can see that I'm actually giving quite a hefty discount, in particular to Bullseye and Craig's Golf Town and more. Now, I should have said early on that this model is a unified view of a fictitious company called Gulfstream little play on words. It's a manufacturer of golf products. We service golf courses, and we want to be able to do everything in this application. I want to be able to do reporting in this application. I want to be able to do planning, budgeting, forecasting in this application. So if I go back to my home screen, I may wish to look at my financial close process. I may wish to go into my task management or account reconciliations, transaction matching. We offer that as a solution, or those facets of performance management as solutions as well. Simply go to the solution exchange, download them, plug them into your application, and off you go, rather than purchase perhaps a very costly solution from another vendor. Now, task management is a great way for us to visualize what needs to get done, whether it's my financial close process or my budget process. And you'll notice that I have different things to do. Now, we're not presupposing as the software vendor that we're going to map what you need to do. Rather, you're going to work with Nova. They're going to advise you on best practice or leading practice for the types of things that you need to do. And then we're going to provide the ability for you to execute flawlessly. I can see that I've already uploaded my FX rates. I can see that the last step was automatically loading in my ERP import. And if I go to that step in particular, I'm dropped off in the workflow for the first part of my close consolidation. I would work through each of these steps either on an automated basis or on a push button basis. And at the end of the process, I can look at the entirety of close. In this case, for June of 2023, again, assuming that we just closed out June, I can look at my financial results. I can do my analysis of variance. I can look at my intercompany activity. I can get all the way down to the transaction matching from entity to entity inside of the organization, all within a single application, without that fragmentation and multi-module approach that we see with other vendors. Now, when it comes to planning and budgeting and forecasting, which is one of the focus items of this session, we have all of that available to us. We have different forms of planning available to us, and those solutions that are found in Solution Exchange for workforce, for capital, for cash can all be plugged into this application. Now, typically, an organization will start with a strategic plan, kind of the back of the envelope, if you will, where I have, or I'm showing right now, the overview for entity by entity, what that strategic plan looks like. We may not be looking at this from a product or a customer perspective. We're simply trying to work out what our net sales looks like, what cost of sales and gross income would look like. I'd want to do this quickly, and therefore I'd want to be able to use drivers, and I'd want to have different methodologies for those drivers. For example, percent of total revenue, percent of product revenue. Speaking of revenue, I'd want to do a revenue process, a cost of goods process, and then eventually allow for the user to look at an income statement and a balance sheet and a cash flow, and then make decisions about changes that need to take place in that overall strategic plan year by year by year, and then eventually seed my target. Think of that as a version of the budget that I'm constantly comparing myself to. Now, when I seed the target, I'm actually taking that baseline figure, which is not by product, not by customer, and driving it down on an allocation basis so that I can do comparisons later. And of course, what ifing is always something that is possible within OneStream for the entire enterprise. Now, if I back up a couple of steps, I want to talk about how we can leverage from a forecast perspective, and there's the budgeting process, of course, that I'll do on an annual operational and financial basis. But from a forecast standpoint, the trend that we're seeing right now is moving away from the manual approach that, again, is highly biased to more of an automated and leveraging machine learning approach. So as an example, right now I'm looking at the overview, much like my strategic plan and the budget, which I haven't shown you. I have assumptions, I have different forms of planning that I'm going to do for the forecast process here. I might want to do a scenario analysis. You're going to see an example of that extensibility in play. For example, for actuals, we have lots of detail by customer. We have that same detail by product and by regional location. But when I look at my budget, my forecast, my strategic baseline or strategic plan, we up level. We're not going to the region by region level when it comes to my strat plan. We're not going to that same level for customer. For product, we might focus in on some of the strategic customer, or rather products. But again, the level depth of detail that we can store in that same application can vary function by function by function. When I go back to my forecast review, oh, and by the way, from a workflow standpoint, forecast status, who's in, who's not. And as the forecasters are entering in this case, their FP&A activity, they can put in commentary all in the same application. And that, of course, is available through the financial close and consolidation process as well. Now, when I look at revenue, the thing, again, getting back to what we're seeing from a trend standpoint, is instead of leveraging great tools to make changes to the forecast. So for example, for Big Mart, I may want to go off and highlight a number of data points, use some spreading capabilities to, for example, up level by a factor, say by 0.03, what we're seeing based upon what I'm seeing and what I'm experiencing. That, again, has some level of bias. I may not have access to all of the information that I need to have access to. So instead, what I, as the user, can do is make a decision about leveraging sensible machine learning. Now, again, sensible machine learning is a solution that I plug in that is a no-code, low-code approach to leveraging artificial intelligence. It's going to look at your data at the operational transaction by transaction level of detail, and then allow you to bring in as much of that macroeconomic and calendar-based event data as you wish, so that you can allow that to guide you, at least from a starting perspective. So on screen, I'm looking at that one number. Forecast, plan, budget forecast tends to be at a summary level, whereas my actuals tend to be detailed. So what I'm doing here is leveraging the actuals from last year to generate a machine learning forecast by marrying that data with the macroeconomic indicators like CPI, like how much is the Fed charging for interest rates these days, unemployment rates, gas prices, whatever might be relevant. And I can influence now that forecast by leveraging, instead of the number that the human enters, I can actually leverage the data that's calculated by the engine. Now, why is this of benefit? Well, it's leveraging, again, that external data. We call them features, and I have full transparency on which of those features have the most importance and are being leveraged as it creates that ML forecast for me. Now, all I would have to do at this stage is copy my ML forecast. I'm not going to do that at this point. And it would quickly and easily drop that new data into my forecast. And then, of course, I could go ahead and make changes to it. For example, I may be aware of an event, a promotion that's going to occur in the next couple of months that has not yet been brought into sensible machine learning. I didn't see it on the list there. And so I can now influence it. Now, what does this mean for your FP&A process? Again, much more accuracy, much more speed. We have one customer in particular, a very large customer in the retail space, that talked to us about their 6-7 week quarterly forecast process. We did a proof of value with sensible machine learning. They're already a OneStream customer. They were using OneStream, and they had improved upon their forecast process from when they were using another vendor's solution. With sensible machine learning, they moved into a less than 6-hour approach to that forecast. And then that allows the human FP&A folks to go in and start to make changes to it, start to do greater analysis against it. So with that said, I'm going to jump to our summary slide and throw it back to Andy to finish out the session.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dave. Appreciate it. So as we summarize and how OneStream empowers predictive manufacturing finance, the strategic planning and forecasting capabilities we've talked about. So as you look in your manufacturing operations to perhaps shift product manufacturing locations to different geographies, OneStream enables that decision making to allow you to deal with those market changes we talked about, those labor shortages, those supply chain disruptions. OneStream's unified financial operations, it's a unified platform with actuals, budgets, variance analysis, the backward looking, the forward looking, the looking at what happens today. That unified platform will allow you to eliminate the need for disparate systems and modules. OneStream's close and consolidation solution. Every company needs to close their books. OneStream is best in class at this. It will allow you to provide the financial reporting, the statutory reporting in each of your different geographic locations, all in one place. And the advanced reporting and dashboards we've talked about and seen today, those capabilities will give the real-time insights, those operational analytics, to allow you to adapt your business and analyze the financial and operational performance. So with that, we can wrap up. If you'd fast forward to the next slide, Dave. Any question? I think we've got time for maybe one question. And I think I see just one question coming. Maybe Greg, you could help us with this. So Greg, when we talk about kind of modeling and the adaptability of OneStream, how quickly can we model different forecast scenarios? So as we deal with things like labor shortages or market price fluctuations, can you talk about the ease of iterating on those different models?
Sure, Andy. So I think Dave showed some of that capability with that what if analysis. So typically, we'll build out a driver-based model, and it's simply a matter of creating a what if scenario and copying drivers from maybe a previous scenario into the new one, and then adjusting it and then just running the model. So that process can be extremely quick. You can do that as many times as you want. As we like to say, scenarios are free in OneStream. So within a few clicks of the button, updating a few drivers, you can have a completely different forecast.
Yeah, and I'd add the really cool thing to that is you can have one scenario versus another scenario, say what if one versus what if two, or you're modeling at a much more summarized level of account, or a much more summarized level of customer, just to do a quick swag and then allocate that down to the detail that you might require. Or better yet, as I mentioned toward the end of my demonstration, replace that with sensible machine learning and let sensible machine learning create the swag for you with all that great external information that lets us understand the context of what happened in the past when the weather was whatever it was, when gas prices were whatever they were, and whether or not statistically that had an influence on, from a push-pull perspective, revenue or expense or whatever we happen to be modeling.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Dave. So with that, we're at time. We'll wrap up the session. We really appreciate your time today. I've put in the chat a scheduling link if you'd like to deeper dive into your business challenges and how OneStream Solutions can address them. We'd be happy to speak with you at Nova Advisory. I've got a scheduling link out there. And with that, we'll wrap up the session. Thank you so much for your time today. And thanks to the panelists.